Hello, my name is Danilo. I'm co-founder of Kakarot ZKVM, but today I will share a little bit of my own experience of how it was to be part of Zuzalu and some of the amazing projects that were born. There are many more projects than what I'm going to show, but just showcasing a few of them. Okay, so Janine just explained what is Zuzalu, but just if someone just arrived, Zuzalu was a 2-month experience where we lived, ate, hacked, discussed about different things, and improved altogether. That's my short view of Zuzalu. And yes, and I think what touched me the most around Zuzalu is when I first arrived, I remember having this really clear feeling of trust in the idea of there were a lot of people, but I knew everyone was from Zuzalu, and I could approach anyone, sit with anyone, or discuss with anyone. And I remember that the first week was very interesting to see like how it is to feel very secure and trusting, like completely trust your environment. And some of the things that I learned from that is that this feeling of trust really like enhances social cohesion and collaboration. It really brings through a lot of innovation, resilience for the ecosystem in the sense of everyone is willing to tackle problems together, and also, I think more importantly, well-being in the sense you're feeling trusted, you're feeling, it's a very incredible feeling. And I think like what Zuzalu brought was very similar to what Ethereum and blockchain brought in a technological way, but in a framework way. I believe that this movement from Web3 came from this feeling of trust that people can collaborate with each other without needing to trust, which in some sense is the ultimate trust. And by Zuzalu creating this environment where we could have this feeling, but we didn't depend on any technology or things like that, we had a very similar effect on Web3, where people are very willing to just try out many different things, and it was very curious. And also another thing that I observed in Zuzalu is how in the first days it was very, very hard to get things done because we would just meet people and the talk were so amazing, and then we would be in the breakfast until 11 a.m. and when we went to work we were already tired and full. But what I realized during these days is that even though my productivity was very low for the first days, the creativity level was extremely high. All these discussions, all this interaction with these amazing people brought a lot of ideas and a lot of inspiration within me. So, and then I felt like, oh, maybe like this is almost like the ecosystem itself is breathing. When there is contraction of the ecosystem, there is like a high amount of information flow, a lot of creativity, maybe less amount of work, similar how it's EDCON also, but then when the ecosystem is expanding, then we are more prone to do some work, to try out things that we learned. But as time goes on, maybe if you stay too far away for too long, maybe the creativity level drops. So I felt like in Zuzalu, I experienced this importance of needing to contract and expand and like trying to see how we go as only one ecosystem was a very interesting experiment for myself. And another thing that I observed in these last 2 months, different from just normal conferences, because I've been into a few in the last year especially, is that when you have enough time, I'm going to come back one step. One of the first things that a person from Zuzalu told me when I just arrived was that, oh, this is very chaotic, and if you want to have something done, just propose it yourself, and it will happen. And I was very touched, and I said, okay. And when I started to see the chat, where it's like every day something new coming out, I realized how people started to share about their like secretive or more personal hobbies or things that they really like, and start inviting people to join that. In a sense of, hey, whoever wants to join a tea party tonight, or whoever wants to join a board game night, or who wants to play soccer. And I realized how when you have enough time, not just 1 week, but a month or 2 months, people likes to have fun, and then they just start sharing with people what they have fun. And when we meet people in that area, not in the area where we're talking about ZK or other things, but board games or things that we're really interested, it creates a different kind of bonding and a different kind of relationship, which for me I made many, many good friends. And besides that, I think the hardships, as we stay long for a long time too, we also go through hardships together. So I think Zuzalu definitely brought a new way of bonding the community. So I'm going to share really quickly what are my top 3 events from Zuzalu. There were a lot of amazing talks from Vitalik and other people, but I have to be sincere. This was my top 3 events. The first one is the 8 a.m. cold plunge, where everyone together. Now it's more a chilly plunge because it's hot, but in the beginning it was a cold plunge, where we would come together, 7 a.m., you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm gonna suffer in the cold for 10 minutes, but I'll be with my friends. And then you would just go there, and then after that we would have the sauna philosophy moment where everyone after 10 minutes would go. And then this is the places where I felt really connected to people in a very authentic, in a very interesting way that haven't happening since maybe school time or when I was younger. Another thing that I really like are the board nights and the sports night where we gather like 50, 60 people. We would have like 4 hours where we play volley, soccer, basketball. And for me, these 3 events, which happened regularly, had the most impact in terms of fun and my own growth as well. But besides this, now talking about a little bit more about projects, what was the flow that I've experienced throughout Zuzalu is that you meet incredible people, you have amazing ideas, and because we have hackathons every weekend, it's like, oh, there's this idea. Should we do it on the weekend? Yes, why not? It's not something like, oh, you have an idea, when we go back, let's discuss it. It's basically, oh, this idea is interesting. Let's try it out this weekend. And then in a week, you have the idea, you prepare, and then you build a proof of concept in 2 days. And the next week, you already have a feedback, and then you have new ideas. And oh, it's a new week. Oh, there's another hackathon this weekend. Why don't we try something new again? So I think this proximity and like feedback loop from the community, and also this space where we could we had time enough to have ideas and implement it, was really accelerated a lot of things. And from all of these projects, I'm going to share a little bit about some of the ones that I thought was very interesting. Janine already mentioned most of them, so I'll just complement in a few sense. I think the first one is the Zupass, which is basically, how I see it is like a wallet, like a MetaMask wallet for zero-knowledge proof secrets. So one of the challenges today in zero-knowledge proof is that you need secrets and you need data to generate the proof. But like if everyone, so there's this risk of the prover needing the data, but if you have a wallet that can, or like something or a passport that can hold this data for you and interact to these different provers, similar way how wallets interact with signing messages, then you can have secure, and you can also bring composability more for zero-knowledge proof secrets. And also there is the Zoo stamps, which Janine mentioned. If you go around and you get the stamps later on, you can prove that you were somewhere without revealing who you are, and actually you can later even prove that, oh, I've been in at least 3 cold plunges. I've been in at least 10 10K runs. So it's a really interesting mechanism where besides just having the stamps, you can also generate proofs on top of them. So there's also the Zucass, which was a non-Twitter where people really shared really interesting things. And there is the Zupo, which I think it's also based on zero-knowledge proof, and you can vote anonymously. And the idea, what I thought it was really interesting is that you have a perception of what you believe the community is feeling, but once you see the pool, then I feel like the whole community itself would align them on what is really going on besides your own perception. Besides this, we had some AI projects like Zuland and Zuzuland. This Zuland is basically an autonomous NPC game where the NPC itself have their own, they can take their own decisions, and in games it could be very different. Imagine you have a boss, and then you can, instead of killing the boss, you can convince him to kill the other players for you. And also there is Zuzuland, which we don't have a video, but the idea is that we have even a VR space in Zuzalu. There's also Sentient, which was a project was born when we went to the Tara River. Some of the environmentalists was like, okay, we want to bring awareness for the river. So what they did, they traded an LLM with a lot of research data and also got data from the river. And now people can just go to the chatbot and actually talk to the river, in a sense, to understand more about the river. And it had really interesting results. Like if you ask the river, oh, how are you feeling? Or what do you think I can help you? It would gather the data from these researches and help out you understand it better. And there's also the longevity Genie, which basically once you have your gene data, you could talk to your genes and understand what is happening inside you in a different way. So these are some of the projects. And also, I think now there is an initiative from Tomiwa, which I think it's best to let him talk himself. So, yeah.
Dobar dan, moje ime Tomiwa Ademidun. Good day, my name is Tomiwa Ademidun.
Hello, my name is Ivan Capisoda.
And we're here to talk about EduZalu. So what does EduZalu mean? It stands for Education Zuzalu. And our goal is quite simple. How do we use education to make a brighter future for Zuzalu and Montenegro? In other words, how do we light up the dark mountain? So what does that even mean, light up the dark mountain? If you go to any gas station in Montenegro and you ask, hey, do you have a souvenir with the map of Montenegro? This is what they give you. Crna Gora Noću, Montenegro at night. What do you notice? Darkness. So let me zoom in a bit more. So if you fly over Montenegro at night, everywhere is lit up except for Montenegro itself. And so we were thinking to ourselves, what would it look like if we made Montenegro both physically and spiritually brighter? And when we talk about brighter, we don't just necessarily mean how do we have more apartments and more real estate and more technology, but how do we make it brighter in terms of art, poetry, history, art, or the nature? How do we get more people to appreciate Montenegro's nature? So I once asked my friend Viera, who actually I see right there, I said, Viera, who is the greatest Montenegrin? And she told me about Petrovic Njegos. Petrovic Njegos, when he was buried, and that's his mausoleum right there, he asked to be buried on the second highest mountain in Montenegro. Now, why would someone ask to be buried on the second highest mountain? Well, Petrovic is a very smart man, and he said, bury me on the second highest mountain, because I want a greater Montenegrin to come, and I want them to be buried on the highest mountain. And our goal is very simple. How can we sort of cultivate and create this greater Montenegrin? Maybe it's Ivan, who knows? And so I went up one day in front of town hall and I said, hey, Zuzalu, we've done a lot of great events, but what have we done for the Montenegro community? We need to do something. And to the credit of a lot of people in the group, they stood up to the challenge. Janine, Vieira, Boyana, Georgia, Gary, Veronica. In the last maybe month or so, these are just a few of the things that we've done. So the first thing was Manifesting Montenegro 2.0, where we organized an event to talk to the local students here at UDG, and we got Nella, the dean, we got Vitalik, Milohiko, to come in and talk to us. And we talked a lot with the students. The next thing was Montenegro Day, right? So we got the Prime Minister, Dritan, Milos, to basically come in and basically talk about how can Zuzalu and Montenegro work together to create a brighter future. And then finally, we gave a grant to a UDG startup. So we went to this really cool auction here at UDG, and we basically bid on one of our favorite startups. And we picked the startup of a really bright student called Ivan, who created Usloga. And so Usloga is, actually wait, why don't I just let him describe it?
So, hello, again, my name is Ivan Kapisoda, and a quick recap of the last 10 plus days. So, I was one of the top 10 business ideas at my university competition, and at that time I was really amazed, and, but what will afterwards happen, I really couldn't imagine. So, Zuzalu invested in me, and they invited me to come to Zuzalu to help me to proceed into my idea and to accomplish it. Yeah. Sorry. So, let's get on it. So they invited me to come to Zuzalu, and so they could help me. They mentored me, and I really have to say thank you to everyone who helped me. There was George, Gary, and Tomiwa, and they also had the opportunity to present it on the town hall to get to the other Zuzalians. And after that, Tomiwa approached me and said, okay, let's build it. So what happened is we built the first taxi chatbot for Montenegro. If you need a taxi, you just need to send a message of your location, where you want to go, and the time. And then drivers can approach to you and send you their offers. It really helps and easiest the way of finding a taxi in Montenegro, and of course the barrier of language, it's breaking it, because at this moment if you don't speak our language it's a bit hard to get to the locals, and with this chatbot we are trying to break it and to find new ways.
Yeah, and these are some pictures of, so we actually already had our first ride, and you can scan that QR code to try Usloga bot. Okay, so EDCON is ending this week, Zuzalu is ending this week. How do we make sure continuity, right? How do we make sure that when we're not here physically, we can still be here virtually with the Montenegro people? And so one of the next initiatives we have is basically a mentorship chatbot that you basically go on this platform and you tell us about what are some of the skills you have, what are the life experiences that you have, and we're going to connect you with a UDG student to provide mentorship. And one of the things I want to point out is that if you look at this picture, one of the things you notice from the UDG students is how intent they are, right? Like look at how Ivan is looking at Georgia when he's talking, or if you can see Jason over there, and you can see the students are like looking at him, really listening. And what that shows to me is that the Montenegrin people have a thirst for knowledge and a thirst to do better. And I think a lot of you here in the Ethereum community, the Zuzalu community, you have knowledge that could really benefit them. Ivan actually always has a great quote that he told me. He says, you know, Tommy, well, don't give me a fish, give me the angler, right? So how can you give people the tools they need to be self-sufficient? And I believe education is the best way to do this. So if you believe you have knowledge, sign up to be a mentor for the other students so we can have more Ivans and we can have a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomiwa. So just to wrap up, during these 2 months, there were 50 plus projects that were developed, and if you want to know more, I think you can ask on the chat, or I don't know where you can get actually, because they're everywhere. Someone will need to put all of them together. And just to summarize some of the key takeaways for myself personally, I would say that I learned from every area. I learned so many things that I didn't even know that I didn't know about. Made really, really amazing friends, and got inspired by Genie to run and do more cold plunges, which today I am taking with me as I come back to the next journey or the world. So thank you very much, and yes.